We believe that since the privatization of the ICT sector, I'm now talking principally about the telecom companies, a lot has changed. There was a time that we had a monopoly. Everything was in the hands of Ghana Telecom. And since that situation changed with the arrival of other companies, a lot has been achieved in this direction. The first BPO company to arrive in Ghana is the ACS. At the time, it was more or less a revolution in this country, because this was a company that within a very short period developed employment to the tune of nearly 2,000 for employment for the youth. And clearly, this was something that was very much appreciated. It was when it arrived that we also saw the opportunity for putting in place the infrastructure to develop this system to give employment to our youth. I think in order to really define this vision, we need to go to our policies. You need to actually define a platform in the form of a policy to enable this whole thing to move. And as you are aware, Ghana is one of the African countries that has developed a very sustainable policy in this area. This policy is to help us to actually bring everybody on board to promote development of ICT in the educational field, in the health sector, private business development, and virtually all other sectors for socioeconomic development. Presently, the cost of bandwidth through the South3, the consortium, is very high indeed. Indeed, we're talking of close to between 5 and 10 times higher than the level of cost in the countries outside Africa that I mentioned, namely India, China, and elsewhere. So clearly, we need to develop good bandwidth. And then, within the country, we also need to actually establish a very good backbone in the development of fiber optic, and that is precisely what Ghana is doing today. As we talk now, the phase 1 of this project has started. This fiber optic backbone is, we are presently using the serving loop, which already exists. It's been established by Valco, and we are using that to upgrade that system and also to extend the use of this from Kumasi to Tamale and subsequently to the neighboring countries, Burkina Faso and then Cote d'Ivoire on the west and Togo on the east. We will be able to cut the cost of bandwidth within by half of the current situation. And we also need to develop additional facilities in order to cut other costs, because I have mentioned the cost of bandwidth. There are also other issues, namely the cost of space. You know, the space per square foot or square meter in Ghana is rather high compared with other countries. So we are actually developing various policies to reduce the level. For example, we are already this year going to cut the sword to develop a technology park and within the free zone area. And this is one way by which we want to actually cut the cost of office space. E-government is an attempt to enable government to talk to its own citizens. Presently, we have a divide between the urban and the rural areas, and whatever is developed in Accra here takes some time before it gets to the rural areas. So the idea here is to build a system to enable us to first electronically develop our system within government, and having developed that system, to put a lot of information on the internet so that our citizens can reach us and raise issues with us one-to-one, rather than through the media or through the current system, which takes a lot of time. Well, the GCNet is an attempt to create one platform for all the stakeholders that are engaged in export, import of goods. And before, if you wanted to import goods into this country or to export, then you had to visit, say, 12, 15 offices, separately by physically getting to these offices. Now we have created a platform, in fact there are two of them, that enables you to feed information electronically into the system and get responses also from the system. There is also the facility to make electronic payment so that once you have everything in order, then you are able to execute your business within reasonable time. I believe the current situation, within 2-3 days, you can actually do a lot of most of your import and export businesses. Whereas before, we were talking of maybe 10 or 12 days for the similar exercises. It's been reported that, since this system was established, the internal revenue has more than doubled. The GCNet system has led to an increase in revenue to the government, simply because the processes for doing businesses have been made more efficient. Presently, what you use to do in 12 days or 10 days can be done in 2 or 3 days. We want to actually move into various areas. For example, passport. Passport is one document that our citizens need in reasonable time. So we want to be able to put this on in the electronic, to at least the filling of the form should be done electronically. And then once it is done, we also want to set up system such that you can actually collect this from the districts, because if you're able to connect the central government to the districts, then it means that they can actually obtain these forms and they pass on themselves from the districts. In fact, we see the private sector being the most prominent, you could say, partner in this exercise. Most of our ICT services are indeed given by private businesses. So we are now encouraging public-private partnerships, and this is the way that we see a way forward. Indeed, the GCNet that I have spoken about is one that relies heavily on public-private partnership proceedings. Because they can do just much more efficiently and effectively than government. It is clear that government's role is to set the policy. Government, once they go into the actual execution of businesses, governments are not the best location for executing businesses. We do face huge challenges. The issue of educational levels in our rural areas, they do not have the same facilities, educational facilities, as in the urban areas. Then the other challenge is the access to computers. In the urban areas, you may come across computers, but many rural areas simply do not have access to computers. How do you operate the internet if you do not have computers? It is true that lately you can do a bit on the mobile sets, but invariably you cannot transmit too much data on the mobile set.